I'm really happy to be here today, and my name is Clayton Cameron. Today I'm just going to, first of all, do a lot of playing for you, hopefully, and I'd like to show you a little video to give you some ideas about a couple of different patterns and how to mix them so that you can have like a pretty big sound where you just won't be playing one pattern all the time. And that's pretty much it. We're going to have some fun. Maybe bring a couple people up. They can show me what they've been doing. And that's it. So anyway, I'm going to play a little more right here and talk to you at the same time. Now, a lot of people ask me, you can turn the mic back on. Hello. Yeah, thank you. A lot of people ask me, they say, Clayton, you know, with all the heavy metal and, funk fusion, guys slamming like Dennis Chambers and Steve Gadd and, all these heavy hitters, how can you be playing brushes? So I say to them, somebody has to, sweep up all those broken drumsticks. Then they ask me, like, well, Clayton, what are, some of your influences? Now, of course, some of the obvious answers would be, like Philly Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones, all the great drummers of the jazz tradition. But I have some other influences as well, like my mother's washing machine. And then when it would get off balance, it would sound something like. So you listen to those things around the house and, you kind of pick up those rhythms. All kidding aside, one of the big influences on me, beside drummers, was the late, great Sammy Davis Jr. While I worked with Sammy, of course, well, maybe some of you don't know, he was a great hoofer, a great tap dancer. And I met a lot of great tap dancers working with him. One time I did a show with Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines, another tap dancer by the name of Sandman Sims, Arthur Duncan, and Bunny Briggs. Now each of these tap dancers had their own style of tap dancing. Bunny Briggs was a tap dancer who would barely lift his taps off the ground and would do a lot of little rapid fire tap things. So when I used to work with him, I would listen to his taps and his stuff would sound something like this. So that was like Bunny Briggs. Then you had Arthur Duncan, who was kind of like an acrobatic type of tap dancer. And he did a thing one night where he took his leg and he would swirl it all around. So I said, wow, it'd be neat if I could do something like that. So I took Bunny Briggs and then added Arthur Duncan. Sounds something like that. Then you had Bunny Briggs, you had Arthur Duncan, you had Sandman Sims. Now Sandman Sims was called Sandman because he would spread sand on the floor and then slide across it. So he would, do things like this. So what I did was took Bunny Briggs, Arthur Duncan, and Sandman Sims. So together they sound something like that. Then of course there's Sammy Davis Jr. Now Sammy, he was a great performer. He could tap dance, he could sing, he could twirl guns, he could do impersonations. When he tap danced, he reminded me of kind of like out of the tradition of Bojangles, Bill Bojangles. And they sound something like this. So what you do, you can guess it. I took Bunny Briggs, Arthur Duncan, Sandman Sims, and there you go. Put them together. Okay, last but not least, Gregory Hines. Now, Gregory to me is kind of like the Tony Williams of tap dancing. He took all the traditional guys that like I just played for you and put them together. Like Tony would take Elvin Jones, he would take Art Blakey. He took all those cats, put them together, and came up with this sound. So to me, Gregory kind of did the same thing, but what he added was he made it a little more funky. He added a little more contemporary rhythms to it. So when I listen to Gregory, who I work with a lot, I play something like this. So that's Gregory. Okay, so you can guess it. Took Bunny Briggs, Arthur Duncan, Sandman Sims, Sammy Davis Jr., and Gregory Hines, and put them together, and they sound something like this. Okay, so that's Sandman Sims, Bunny Briggs, Arthur Duncan, Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines, all tap dancers, big influences on me, as well as the different sounds. And I'm not kidding, the sounds I heard around the house, in the streets, whatever, in addition to Philly Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones, and all the rest of the traditional jazz brush players. Okay, any questions? Good, I can't see you anyway. Okay, I'm going to do a little brief discussion on the different sounds of the brushes. When you play on the tip, that's one sound. When you play here, I call it a full body, that's another sound. When you hold it down on the drum, that's one sound. When you hit the full body and pick it up, that's another sound. So, I'm going to give you each of those sounds right now. That's the tip. Coming off the drum. Here's the full body. I call that a snap accent, actually. You just snap your fingers. Very relaxed. That's coming off the drum. This is it in the drum. Okay? Then, of course, you had the slide on the tip. You have the slide with the full body. So, how many sounds we have? We have the striking the tip, striking and holding it down, striking and lifting it up, sliding with the full body, sliding with the tip. So you have about 5 different sounds there, and I'm not even adding all the other intricate things that I can add to it. So you have 5 different sounds that I can take and orchestrate. So what I like to do now is have David, he's our video guy, run a conventional pattern that you can see on the monitors, on the monitors there, on the screens. Can you roll that for me, David? Now let's have a closer look at the left hand. Starting near the top of the drum, moving in a clockwise motion, your brush should be touching the head at all times. To add a heavier accented pulse, press more of the body onto the head at the beginning of the beat. Then relax as you round the bottom of the drum. This stroke is one of the most integral. Therefore, it is important to practice until it is smooth before adding an accompanying stroke. Each circle should equal quarter notes or half notes. 1 and 2 and 3, and 4, and, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's look at the right hand. Playing the traditional swing pattern, beats 2 and 4 will be on the left side of the drum. Beats a 1, beats a 3 will be on the right side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that traditional pattern, whether you're sliding back and forth or going in a full circle, is what is just that. It's like a traditional method used to keep time with. Now, where most people run into problems is when they try to, kind of elaborate and get into some other things. So what I like to do now is I want to show you one more pattern, and then I'm going to show you how to mix them up together. So, David, if we can run the over-under pattern, so they can see that, and then I will show you how to put those together, and you can kind of create more than just, just that back and forth motion. Okay, David, can we run that? So you can see how that motion is. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but you can look at that later. Okay, so now we have the traditional pattern. Then we have the over-under, which you just saw. Now, what you're hearing with the traditional, I'm playing on the tip. So that's one sound, right? Then I'm keeping time with the left hand. Now, when I start doing the over-under pattern, which you just saw, I'm using more of the sweeping motion with the full body. So I'm using two different things. On the traditional, mostly the tip. On the over-under, I'm going to be using the body. So we're already going to be playing between two different sounds. So here we go. So as simple as that. Of course, I took I took the pattern, but then of course I kind of put it over the bar, changed the rhythm just a little bit, but the pattern is basically the same. So you yourself, you can sit down, take a traditional pattern, take the over-under pattern, and just kind of mix them up. And what it does is really nice when you're playing in a band situation or behind a vocalist or whatever the situation may be, where you're not just bored playing just one particular type of thing and trying to figure out, well, how do I play a fill or whatever. So this will give you just a little more insight of how maybe you can take these different parts, these different components, put them together, and make a whole big sound. Okay, any questions? Okay, I see a hand over there. Yeah, most of the time I'm playing in clockwise. It just feels more natural to me. His question was, do I feel more comfortable playing clockwise or counterclockwise? I can actually play both ways, which I've actually demonstrated. I like the clockwise because my hand, you can probably see this on the video, is in this position, and it's very easy for me to go from the tip, which is I'm on now, and then just laying the brush down. So if I'm going in a circle like this, then I just lay the brush down just by the use of my finger. The other way takes a little more pressure. You're going in a clockwise motion, and then you just add a little pressure, you have to kind of bend. So you have the hand between the shaft and the drum head, so that's a little more space than when your hand is lying flat for the counterclockwise motion. So that is really the only thing that I see an advantage at, because if you're a good player, you see anybody, if you saw Lewis Nash's clinic or Carl Allen's clinic, I'm sure yesterday, they probably play some brushes, and they go back and forth as well. So it just depends on the person and what's happening in the music. But I generally prefer this way just because I can go back and forth easily between the tip and the full brush, like that. That answer your question? All right. Any other? I got a hand right here.
Do you always play snares off?
Good question. He asked me, do I always play with snares off? No, I don't. The reason most of the time I play with the snares off, again, it's usually depends on what's happening in the music, but I prefer the snares off most of the time because of all the different sounds that I'm doing with the brushes, that some of the 5 sounds that I explained to you, going back and forth. Oh, there's one more sound I didn't explain to you. If you leave the left hand or right hand, the opposite hand, pressed on the drum, that adds another dimension to all the other sounds that I already talked about. So what I do is I take those sounds and I orchestrate them, and I find that they're more pronounced when I have the snares off, because the snares add another sound that may cover up what I'm trying to do. So, but if I mean, that's a nice sound. It's nice to have that when you want it. So as you can see, you know, if you wanted that backbeat sound or the snare sound on the drum, you could use it depending on what's happening in the music. So most of the time, I have the snares off. Most of the recordings I do, have had the snares off simply because I like the tone of the drum and being able to access those different sounds without the snares kind of covering them up. So that's pretty much it. Okay, one more question.
Is that also in deference to the bass player for sympathetic vibration? Or?
No. His question was maybe having the snares off was because of maybe the sympathetic vibrations from a bass player. No, that's not it at all, but that is a good point. Okay, so I'm going to do a little more playing on the kit and you know, have some fun, and then we'll answer some more questions. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate one thing that I was just doing that I forgot to mention. Another sound using the tip of the brush, and also involving what I call the rim flex. And it's when you take the shaft of the brush and you put it up against the drum like that, so your hand is below the rim. So you see it flexing? Then the thing to do is to take your hand, once it's flexing, is to rotate it, using this as a fulcrum, the rim as a fulcrum. And so I do an exercise where I control each of the flexes. So 2 flexes, 3 flexes, 1 yen, 2 yen, 3 yen, 4 yen, 4 flexes, 5 flexes, and then if I want to do 6, I start all over again by doing duples, right? Okay, so it'll take you about a couple of days. Okay, any questions? Do I see any hands out there? Okay. His question is, when am I using to play real fast up-tempo tunes? Is that it? Yeah, his question was, what am I using, what pattern would I be using to play a real fast tempo? Okay, well, of course everybody's degree of speed is going to be different. Just like a track, a person who runs track, everybody's not going to be the fastest. So sometimes, you can so that's about right there. But if it's, beyond your limit, 1, 2, 1, 2, even faster than that, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, Okay, so I'll go back and forth between what I call, well, it's called the gallop. Philly Joe Jones called it the gallop. And there's a couple of ways to do it. One way, and again, let me emphasize this. You're going to see people sit down and play. If you saw Lewis Nash yesterday, if you saw Carl Allen, we may be going in different directions, but the principles are the same. And what I mean by principles, if I say that I'm sweeping on beat 1 with a full body, that's exactly what I mean. Whether I'm going this way or that way or this way, whatever, as long as you're getting that full body sweep. You may even play match grip, which should not make a difference on the sound whether you're playing on the tip or the full body. So this particular pattern, I happen to be going in a counterclockwise motion. You don't have to do that. You can go the other way. So I'm sweeping 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And the right hand is playing and So it's go 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2. Of course, with the hi-hat involved, you can kind of hear where the time is, if you couldn't hear it then. And that's the equivalent of going. Same thing, it's the same pattern. Slow it down, it sounds like. Up tempo. Okay. So once again, I'll demonstrate it for you. 1, 1 and 2 and oh. You know what? I got that backwards. There's two ways to do that. The first way I showed you, this is the way I prefer to do it, where the left hand is sweeping on the ands, and a 1, and a 2, and a 1. But the first way I showed you is also usable. And a 1, and a 2, and a 1, and a 2, and a 1, 2, and a 1, 2. And if they can play faster than that, you're probably not going to understand anyway, so. That answer your question? Okay. Yeah, in the video it's called the gallop. It's a pattern used by a lot of players. In fact, I learned the second one from Lewis Nash.
What type of head do you prefer to play on?
Well, you know, the coated heads, there's got to be a coated head, of course, so you can hear the brushes. What was I say? Remo has a new head out called Fiberskins 3, which has a really nice brush sound on it, and I find myself playing on that more and more. But any of the coated heads, as long as it has a coat on it, you're going to get a brush sound, depending on the type of music you're playing. In fact, in the studio, I mean, I'll bring in a lot of different snare drums with different heads on them, just depending on what the music is asking for. Because when you're in a studio situation, you got a mic on you, and it picks up a lot of nuances that you might not ordinarily hear. So I may get a lighter coat, so I can have more control, because if you have a really heavy coat, it's going to, you know, it's kind of like if you have sandpaper, and, you know, of course, the more coarse the sandpaper, the bigger resistance you're going to get, and the bigger the sound will be. So if I get a finer sandpaper or a finer drum head, then of course the sound is going to be a little lighter. You have a little more control on some nuances. So it just depends on what the situation is, but most of the time live, I've been using the Fiberskin 3s. Good question. Okay, I see a hand right here.
What pattern do you use, or patterns do you use for odd signatures?
That's a very good question. His question is, what would I use for odd signatures? Okay, earlier I was playing just in a 3/4 pattern, where my left hand is basically playing a dotted half-note circle, or just filling the whole 3/4 measure. So I would count like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And the left hand would be playing kind of like what you might play on a cymbal: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it sounds like this. Now, maybe if I'm playing in a 5/4 pattern, so what I would do is I take the 5/4 pattern and add to it a pattern like this: 1, 2, 1, 2. Very simple. Just 1, 2, playing a half-note circle. In other words, I'm counting 2 beats while I play the circle. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So it takes up 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2. So I add that to the 3/4 bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can take any combination of a duple meter and a triple meter and add them together and get any kind of configuration you want. Whether 7/4, 5/4, whatever, you can figure out. So basically, just take a 3/4 pattern and add a 2 to it, and you'll be able to come up with some odd grooves. Okay, any other questions there? Anybody in the back? Okay, I see someone right there.
What thing you do when you lay the brush down and roll it over the head?
Okay, he's asking. That's another thing. Okay, very good. Rim roll. He just asked me about laying the brush down and rolling it on the head, and that's just what it is. You're laying the brush down like this and rolling it. And now there's an exercise I'll give you right away. You can take it home and work on it. I call it a parafriddle. Now everybody knows how to do a paradiddle, right? Right, right, left, left. Okay? So what I do is I take it right, left, dick. Then the left hand, if you're playing traditional grip, you would do it this way. Lay the brush down in a vertical, and then you sweep your hand across it horizontally. Okay? If you're playing match grip, of course, you just lay it like this and go like that. So in a traditional way, it sounds like this. Whoa! I did that on purpose. Okay, slow down. So that's the rim roll, okay? Yeah, that's an easy exercise. You'll be able to do that. Okay, I'll take one more question, then I'm going to do some more playing over here. And one, here's.
What are some basic Latin patterns?
Oh, good, good. That's a good question. Okay, let's say you were playing, he asked, his question was maybe some patterns playing any type of particular Latin pattern. Of course, everyone's heard of a bossa nova. A lot of guys will. Now you can take this and maybe add a little rim flex in it. So that's, very simple. Just like, a little shake array in there. There's one thing, well, you won't be able to do this today, maybe tomorrow. An abacua pattern, where you have everybody knows that, right? Okay, we got that. So now what you do, you turn it on the brush side, or you can turn it over. Okay, that's right hand. Now left hand is going to do this. And you can get that by practicing your parafiddles. Right? Okay? So, okay. Okay, so that was, did I see another hand out there? Okay, I can pretend like I didn't see it. Oh, okay. Right there. Oh, my God. Okay. Oh, that's true. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this wasn't a question, this was a request. The brush that I'm using, this is a Clayton Cameron brush made by somebody named Clayton Cameron. So what I've done is this is basically a non-retractable brush, and it has a solid shaft. And what I've done is so that you can go from the brush to the back end so that you can get the tom-tom sounds, the snare sounds, crash on the cymbals and all that. I've made it solid, and we have a nylon cap on the end. So when I lay the brush down, like you hear that accent, or over here, you're able to, go back and forth without switching to sticks. It's not to replace a stick, but it is so that you will have access to that rim sound, tom sound, and all that other stuff. So I wouldn't be able to do all that stuff, and you hear it without having the nylon cap and the solid shaft. So this is a Clayton Cameron brush. Thanks for that request, Lewis. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do a little playing over here, and I've got a few more minutes, and then I want to first of all thank you all for coming. I want to thank Ludwig for having me here, and Gibraltar, and Zildjian Cymbals, and Remo for supplying the heads and other equipment. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little playing, and that'll be it. Oh! Try that again. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.